Hello all, welcome back to my fragrance journey. My name is Ron, and on today's video I am doing the big 2025 roundup, recap, wrapped, whatever you want to call it. Basically, I've had a million and one ideas floating in my head for what sort of a end of the year type video or videos really that I should do. And I thought about doing several, but then I also was very realistic with myself and noted that I typically don't pump out more than 2 videos in a month these days. So I thought better to just try to compile a few bits of different videos into one, and hopefully that will work out well. And yeah, we'll see. So let's go ahead and get on into my year in fragrance. All right, so to start, I'm going to go month by month and let you know what fragrances came into my collection. Well, not individually for time's sake, but I'll let you know the total fragrances that I acquired each month, whether I purchased them or somebody had given me a gift or something. I'll let you know those totals. And then I'll also touch on a few fragrances that are, well, good, bad, otherwise. Some highlights, some lowlights. I'll let you know those. I'm not going to go over or include any samples just for time's sake. So, yeah, you might have heard me talk about a sample here, there, a little decant. I'm not really going to touch on those, with the exception, I do have some like Scentbird things, some larger decant, travel size decants. I will touch on those, perhaps, or at least I will include those in the totals, and I might touch on a few as highlights or lowlights. But yeah, that's just, again, in an effort for time. I'm not going to go over all the samples as well. And also, that just wasn't really a focal point when I was kind of tracking what was incoming to my collection this year. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about January. So for January, I brought in 12 fragrances. An immediate highlight for me was Soda Snob by Snif. That was my first Snif fragrance. It kind of launched a little love affair, especially towards the beginning of the year. I really love that just true cola fragrance. It's got enough of a perfumey vibe to not seem a little odd, as a fragrance that smells of Coca-Cola, but it really does encapsulate that so well, and it was just a lot of fun. It's one of my favorites. I just adore wearing it all the time. It's spiced and citrus and cola, and yeah, it's great. Definitely a low light, perhaps the biggest, honestly, like fail of the entire year. I also got Eclaire by Lattafa. Now I know some of you are, of course, nodding along, saying, "Of course you did, Ron. Of course, the very hyped, very PR'd, very popular brand that is Lattafa, especially in the way of dupes and whatnot. Of course, you had a bum note from them. I get it. But in this case, because I've always actually had great experiences with them otherwise, I think that this one was truly a situation where the particular fragrance I got was defective or something. I got it, authentic, reputable, all of that, but the actual fragrance, I think something happened because it truly just smelled like 90% of alcohol. Not, oh, I spray it in a little alcohol in the beginning and it goes away. No, no, no. Just lingering alcohol of some sort. Very odd, not right at all. It's supposed to be very vanilla, caramel, I think a Bianco latte-esque, and I got nothing of the sort at all. I even tried for the first time the whole aging thing. I thought, well, maybe that's the problem. I tried it, checking on it every week to 2 weeks for several months and never got any better. And it was so bad that for the first time, not only this year, but I think the first time ever, I just binned it. I just tossed it out. I couldn't imagine trying to sell it even for less than I had paid, nor could I imagine giving it away because it was so bad. There was no way that this was meant, that this was how it was meant to smell, and I couldn't imagine trying to pass that along to somebody else. So yeah, that was a low note. But yeah, that was my 12 fragrances in January. All right, so for February, I added 9 fragrances. The thing I'm going to call out is M by Mariah Carey. because I actually bought it twice in February. So I initially bought a travel size on eBay. It's a discontinued fragrance, mind you. So I bought a travel size on eBay, and then like 2, 3 days later on Shop Goodwill, there was a listing for 100 mils. I think it was like a little bit used, partially used, like 95% full, but I mean, almost near the full 100 mils. And it was a great price. And so I thought, you know what? I don't even have the other one yet. I haven't even smelled it, but screw it. I'm just gonna go for it in case I really love it. Bit of an extra risk on that, but it paid off because both came great condition, smell fantastic. It is a marshmallow scent with some more like perfumey florals and other elements that really just kind of elevate it. It's like a chic perfume or a chic marshmallow scent, and I just adore it. It's one of my favorite things for bedtime. And maybe not. You'll find out as we go through this list. Maybe a few more entered into my collection this year. But yeah, that was my February with 9 fragrances. So for March, I added 7, and a couple things to call out. One, I was very graciously gifted the travel size EDP of Calypso Clementine. It is a fragrance by Bath and Body Works, and that came from one of you lovelies, Miss Lottie. Thank you so much for sending that again. I just think that was very, very sweet of you, very generous, and I have loved being able to wear that and pair that with the matching body spray that I had gotten earlier in the year. So thank you again, Lottie. I also got my first Scentbird of the year. Now, not my first Scentbird ever. I had subscribed to them in years previously, here and there, but this was the first time I had or this was the initial order for this year, when I had decided to resubscribe with them. And I got Guava Sorbet by House of Brandt. It is a guava fragrance. Very, very nice, actually. It's kind of creamy, sweet, slightly tropical vibe. Very nice, very guava heavy. I think it smells fantastic. I have said before, and I'll say it again though, I just wouldn't buy a full size of it though, because I think the price point is just a little high for me. It's not quite unique enough, perhaps. It's not quite special enough, perhaps, to warrant the $200 price tag. I actually have said this before. I think that I would just continue to, because you can buy the Scentbird like travel size vials that they send. You can buy those outside of having a subscription. You can buy them anytime. And even full price for one of those, it's still, for as frequently as I used this, which isn't that frequently, it would be enough if I wanted to repurchase once I finish up this one. But yeah, that was my March with 7 fragrances. For April, there were 8 fragrances added to my collection. I got, let's see here. Well, I got 2 fragrances from Cher, 60s Couture, and then later in the month, 90s Couture. I started with 60s. It was another one that had been talked about by Karina from my perfume map. Very good patchouli fragrance. Really love it. Very affordable. Very, very affordable. And then I had been curious about the rest of this Decades line and got 90s Couture, which is a like vanilla heliotrope gorgeousness situation. I got that one actually in a travel size. I found a travel size for like $3 on Walmart, and I have Walmart Plus, so I didn't have any shipping, so it was fantastic. I drained that. That's already gone. That was used up quickly this year. It was very good, and I want to get a full size of that. But yeah, so I got those 2 from Cher. I also got my first order from d.grayi. I got Charmed and Durian from d.grayi, and those are just amazing scents. d.grayi is an indie perfumer, artisan, niche, whatever you want to call it, just small time operation. It's only a few people, and James Nguyen, the like owner, founder, perfumer, he does amazing things. These 2 are just very cool. Charmed is very like winey, earthy, mysterious, deep, and then Durian is kind of a play on a durian drink that he likes, I think is what it was. And I've never smelled or tasted Durian, so I don't, I can't compare it to that. But I just know it was a very cool, very interesting fragrance, kind of almost a bit funky in a very cool way. Yeah, really, really dug that. I'll also call out, I was also gifted White by Kenneth Cole by the ever amazing Danielle at Perfume Journal. She graciously passed that along to me in a little collection of some other things, and I really love it. I actually just wore it the other day. It's a very gauzy, light, I always think of like it's almost like you took cotton or something and you like fluffed it up and just like literally just like gently patted it across your skin. That's what I feel with this. It's musky, it's very just light and soft and clean and a bit fresh. And yeah, I really, really like that one. Thank you again, Danielle. And that is my April with 8 additions. So May is a really quick simple month. I moved in May, and as all good moves are, it took longer and was more expensive and time consuming and stressful and all the things. So I really didn't have anything come into my collection. Actually, the only thing that did come into my collection, the one fragrance I acquired in May, was accidental. So Scentbird came back again, and I had thought that I had paused it. I think that I paused it too early is what happened, and I just, lost track, and so it did end up coming. Luckily, I got it in the move. I didn't, lose out on it. I got Lost Paradise by Chris Collins. I haven't worn this one much, but it is a tropically, little fruity moment. It's very pretty, if I remember correctly. Very nice. I definitely enjoyed it and want to wear it more, especially this coming spring and summer. But yeah, that's the only thing I got, and even that wasn't exactly by design. But that was my one addition in May. All right, and for June, I was back to fighting form. I added 8 fragrances. The first one to call out is Deixis by Fzotic. This was a limited edition drop at the time, a little like one-time only thing initially, but it ended up doing so well. They have since brought it back, I think permanently, or they're planning on soon bringing it back like permanently and not in just little drop form. But yeah, I got this when it first dropped because it just sounded so good, and it really is. It is inky black velvet darkness in the most comforting, gorgeous, warming way. So don't let the juice in the bottle fool you. It is just a hug in a bottle. It is labdanum, other like resins, incense. It's just, oh my gosh, it's so good. So good, and one I'm so glad to have added to my collection. I also did my very first order from Valerie's Uncommon Scents. For those that don't know, Valerie's is a little indie company that basically gets fragrance oils, and like a lot of other indie companies, they kind of put them into different formats. But with Valerie's, she's got a huge list of different scents to choose from, and you can get them in pretty much anything you want: perfumes, lotions, room sprays, whatever you want. I tend to stick to the 10 ml roller balls as they're a very good price, and I find that they, last me a decent while. So I got 4 of them to start. I got Cashmere Noir, Coco Mademoiselle Type, I should say, Coco Mademoiselle Type. It's their impression of it. And then Grape Soda Pop and Gardenia, all very good, and started a little addiction for a minute. So that was 8 fragrances in June. So for July, I added 4 fragrances. Well, that's funny. I just realized July, 4 fragrances, 4th of July. Anyway, I digress. So, the one I have to call out, though, is Sea Fever by Darren Allen Perfumes. This was a brand that the lovely Danielle at Perfume Journal had mentioned and I got interested in. And this fragrance is really something special to my collection. I don't have anything else quite like it. It is a very, like, so the name is Sea Fever. In my head, though, I always call it Sea Breeze because it is a sea breeze in a bottle to me. Like that cold, crisp, almost biting, whipping sort of, breezy wind situation that you'll, have when you're out there standing on the rocks looking out at the ocean. It's that kind of a situation. Not overly salty, perhaps, but it really just gives you the vibe of the air itself, the wind itself. Absolutely stunning. It's made me very interested in the brand as a whole. In fact, again, thanks to the lovely Danielle, she had sent me at one point a sample of his Cupid's Bow fragrance. That is like the most just gorgeous perfumey chocolate fragrance I've ever smelled. It's on like my little docket to purchase very soon this year. And yeah, so good. Anyway, but hold on. Whoa. I'm talking about July. That wasn't until July. That's just a sample. I'm breaking all my rules. Let me back it up. That was 4 fragrances for July. All right, so in August, things swung up as high as they ever would. I added a whopping 13 fragrances. Now, a good chunk of that is because I did my second Valerie's order. Again, those little 10 ml oils. He says justifyingly. I got several of those. So that's like the big chunk of it. I actually got, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got 8. So the biggest chunk is the Valerie's. Listen, it's hard to resist when they're on offer for like $3.50. Anyway. I will shout out from that amongst all those, I got Pearberry, which is their dupe of the Pearberry fragrance from Bath and Body Works, which I love, which I just found out they brought back again, so I need to like hurry up and grab some of that before it goes. But I tried this in the meantime just to see if I would like it to, again, hold me over. And oh my gosh, it's literally Pearberry. So even if I don't catch the actual, I mean, I do want the body mist if I can get it, but if I don't catch it, I know I'll have this oil to back me up because it's so good. Like, Pearberry is like the shampooiest, and I say this lovingly because I like shampoo type of scents, the shampooiest pear in a bottle. Like, oh my god, it's so good. Like, you're thinking White Rain, Suave type of fruity shampoo fragrance. It's so good. And so it just is lovely. So yeah, that's a great one to shout out. I also got my first vintage of the year and first vintage ever, might I add. I am not one to buy a vintage fragrance, or at least I haven't been historically, mostly because I've been scared. I've been scareded because you just don't know. You don't know, one, especially if it's a vintage fragrance that I'm blind buying. So I don't have any like control. I don't have anything to test it against to know what it should be smelling like. So who's to say when I get it, it's right? And then if it is older, top notes can be gone. It can also just be gone off the whole which way because of improper storage or care, and you won't know that until you actually get it. So I just tend to avoid the whole mess of it. But I did get Blazer by Helena Rubinstein, and I did so 90% because, as I mentioned in my perfume drama, or as featured in my perfume drama video, it was because of a very specific storage situation I got. I'll just leave it at that. I'll make it sound more interesting than it very much is. But yeah, because of how I store some of my fragrances, it was a necessary ad. Let's put it that way. So yeah, that was my 13 fragrances in August. So for September, I added 4 fragrances. Apparently, though, quite the hubbub, quite the fervor around these because I've had to re-record this particular month several times because I just go off on all sorts of tangents. So let's try to be a little more brief, Ron. So I must touch on, I added In by Mariah Carey. Yes, again. So if you're keeping score, this is bottle number 3 in 2025. No, I had not used the travel size up. No, I had not used up my 100 ml. I just was wearing it more frequently around this time and got a little bit worried that, while I had it now and was enjoying it now, that I would run through it sooner than I was ready to, let it go. So I found a decent-ish, comparatively, 30 ml, a 1 ounce bottle on eBay and snatched it up. And then I also added Rive Gauche by YSL. This was something I had had on my list for a long time. I'd wanted it, and I just hadn't taken the plunge because even on Fragrance Nets, even on a place known for deep discounts, it was still like $70. And for a blind buy, that's a pretty hefty price tag for me. So I had hemmed and hawed for a very long time. Finally just went for it. So glad I did. This is actually somebody had brought this up to me after I mentioned getting it. Midwest Betty from Instagram, and she had said that she found it to be very similar to Chanel No. 5. I don't find it to be, for me, like a very similar fragrance, but I can absolutely see the resemblance. I can see where they're in the same family. However, for Rive Gauche, what I find is there's a lot more of a airy, I guess, freshness, sort of. I wouldn't call it a fresh fragrance, but comparatively, I would say it's a fresher fragrance. There is a kind of, as I often say, there's like a circulated air quality to it. In addition to kind of like some of the Chanel No. 5 elements, there's something that just gives me like central air, or even more like maybe like airplane air, just processed air. It's not stale, it's not musty, but there's something almost mechanical or industrial about the breeziness in it. Maybe it's the fact that it comes packaged in an actual can versus a glass bottle. I don't know, but there's something like that in this fragrance, and I find it really fun and wonderful, and it's just gorgeous. So yeah, that is my 4 for September. So for October, I added 9 fragrances, 6 of which were, yes, Valerie's Uncommon Scents. I did have to have a little talk with myself after this and say, okay, they are very inexpensive. But again, most times I'm getting them under $5 a piece. And they are just little 10 mils, which can be used up quickly, so it's not a big space concern. That said, though, you're not using them up quickly, Ron. You are, using them, but compared to my actual sprayable fragrances, not nearly as often. And, I've only, in the 20 some odd I'd gotten by this point, I've only used up one and have, made a solid dent in a few others, but still, nothing that really warrants buying them as frequently or continuing to buy them as frequently as I had. So I have paused on them for just a little bit. And then I also got Green Tea Exotic from Elizabeth Arden. This is my first green tea flanker, and I really hadn't pulled the trigger because there are so many available and so many conflicting reports on whether or not the flankers are good enough unto themselves. Most people seem to find that, either they love one or two, but that a lot of them are very redundant. It feels like green tea with just one element changed or added, and it's not enough to warrant having another full bottle. So I eventually heard Karina at my perfume map talk about Green Tea Exotic, and I had never heard anybody talk about that, so that was probably part of it. But also, it's also discontinued, so I did have to get on eBay, but luckily I did. I like it because it is green tea for sure, but it's actually a family member of green tea. This is enough or different enough that I don't find them to be redundant. So I thought long and hard of what I was trying to say when I was going to record this on like how I was going to describe their difference, because I haven't worn Green Tea Exotic enough maybe to pinpoint exactly what it is. But what I find is just in kind of the vibe, how it makes me feel. Green tea feels like it's from a spa. It feels like it's some sort of aromatherapy almost. Whereas Exotic still has some of those qualities, but it feels more like a perfume. So whereas green tea you could almost mistake as a room spray, a oils diffusing something. There's just something about it that's so refreshing and spa-like that it would almost seem like it's, yeah, maybe not a perfume, but a room fragrance. Whereas this one feels like a perfume. There's something, I thought of the term serious. I don't know if that's the right one at all, but there's something just, yeah, a little more direct about it. And I really do like it, and I'm glad to have added that as well. So that was my October with 9 fragrances. So for November, I added 3 fragrances, the first of which I'm going to talk about I haven't mentioned yet on this channel. I don't believe. So I got Bisous des Fleurs, which is L'Amande Gourmande in collaboration with Kathleen Lights. Now, I love Kathleen Lights. I've watched her for many years. She's a beauty YouTuber. She's done other things. She also owns like a really cool nail polish brand and things. But yeah, she also has talked about fragrance for years, and in the last few years has really talked about it even more, which makes sense. Very popular topic these days. And so she ended up collabing with L'Amande Gourmande for this fragrance, which I also thought was interesting because it is not a gourmand fragrance, even though that's their name, and they tend to produce just gourmands. In this case, this is a like floral, fresh fragrance, and I really like it. So honestly, the best way for me to describe this, and only some of you will know if you've smelled this other fragrance, to me, and I will caveat or note that I have not smelled what I'm about to mention in about 20 years. So I could very well be wrong, but I did wear this for a time. So I feel like in my mind, in my memories, it is the same. And that is Lucky You by Lucky Brand. So like I know they had different ones. The one that's like green liquid, that Lucky You by Lucky Brand. That's exactly what this smells like to me. Again, to me 20 or so years after having last worn it. So could be wrong. Probably I am. I actually am curious to smell Lucky You now, because I didn't dislike the scent. I don't wear it anymore, but I didn't dislike it. So I'm curious to maybe find like a very small bottle or something, maybe secondhand, just so I can compare the two, because I really think this is like the same, which is wild to me, because I don't imagine that's an intentional thing at all. I don't know who's trying to dupe Lucky You in 2025, but that's what it ended up reminding me of a lot. So kind of, yeah, a very fresh, clean, slightly sweet, like very blue-green floral fragrance. Very cool. And thus, even if it doesn't smell exactly like Lucky You does, I do like it in and of itself for sure. And then I gotta mention, get ready for it. Get your pens ready if you've been keeping tallies. I did add a 4th M by Mariah Carey. Listen. Now, first off, I already had that pep talk too. I already told myself no more. No more. Listen. I keep getting on these bouts where I will wear it for 2 to like 4 days at a time and just love it so much. And then that like sort of FOMO comes in where I think, oh, but what if later on I've run out and I want it? So I just, I took a cursory glance of the eBays and things and saw that it was once again listed in the travel size for actually a decent price again. Not quite as cheap as the first time. I think the first time I bought the travel size for like $8, and this time it was like $12, $13. But it was there, and I didn't want it to be lonely. It's getting close to the holidays. It needed a friend, and so I brought it home with me. There we go, number 4. But like I said, I did talk to myself, and that's that's the last one for some time. I really, again, it's a Valerie situation. I have to use some up before I can actually think about buying any more. But yeah, that is my November with 3 editions. All right, for December, we just have 1 edition. So even though there's lots of fantastic sales and things to take advantage of in December, and I probably would have loved to in some ways, I also really just like to focus on everybody else in December. I've got different friends and family that I want to get gifts for, and of course, going out to do things perhaps, or making, yummy meals, all that. There's just a lot of other things that I'd rather divert my money towards. And so I just didn't take advantage of any of the deals or sales during December, which, I had a lot of fragrances come in clearly. So it's not like I was hurting for anything. Um, that said, there are a couple where I'm like, maybe I should have snagged that deal, but that's okay. So I did still have one thing come in though, and that was a Christmas gift from my mother. She gave me this set of mini Dylan fragrances from Versace. So it's the full line of Dylan turquoise, Dylan blue, and Dylan purple. I think that's what it is. And yeah, so I got the full line now in these little 5 ml minis, which are very adorable. And so it's very exciting to be able to get this line to sample and test out. And I love this type of a thing because one, it's cute, but also it's a nice size to sample. A 1 ml, 1.5 ml, 2 mls, not always so great, right? Have a little bit more, but still keep it cute and little is wonderful. So that way I can get a nice gauge on how I like it. And so far, I must say, turquoise is really head of the pack. I do like that quite a lot. I like them all, but I do like that one quite a lot. And so yeah, that is my December with 1. So that is my editions, which total 82. 82 editions to my collection this year. Quite a lot. However, I very much went through this year knowing that that's what I was kind of going to do. My collection prior to this year wasn't nearly as large, but I really just, I kind of, it was a slow build, and then we went into a sprint. So last year was me really like ramping up and getting more and more into fragrance in a way that I hadn't previously, or at least hadn't let myself get into previously. And so I, kind of went through this year just saying, yeah, or 2025 just saying, yeah, I'm going to buy the things. I'm going to try the things. And I did. And I've been very happy with it. Overwhelmingly, it's been successful. I would say maybe 10 of the things I added, if even, I don't even know about 10, but maybe about, yeah, 10-ish things that I added are kind of like just meh, so. I wouldn't say they're bad fragrances. Again, there was the Lattafa, but for the most part, they are just fragrances that maybe didn't live up to my expectations or hopes, but they're not bad. They're just the kind of thing that, okay, I'll have them while I have them, and I'll like them while I have them, and I just probably won't purchase them again, and that's okay. I did have some outgoing this year. I did, aside from, well, the Lattafa that I binned, I did use up 3 whole fragrances. Woo woo, amazing. So I did do that. And then, yeah, that's kind of just where I'm at for my comings and goings with my collection for the year. Now I want to talk about my, I guess, favorite fragrance of the year. I hate to say favorite because, that just feels like I'm picking something over all the others, and I've loved so many. I guess maybe the most impactful or the most just recurring, most worn. I guess, yeah, maybe most worn, because it is definitely my most worn. And that would be, guess it? Do you know? Yep, correct. It is Vanilla Candy Rock Sugar by Kayali. I love this. I've waxed poetic. I've got a dedicated video. I've mentioned it in other videos. It's just a big love of mine this year. Has been and probably will continue to be into 2026. It is well, like the name says, vanilla candy, but it's a pear fragrance, a candied pear fragrance with vanilla, with a little bit of florals kind of in the background. It's very, very sweet, not cloying, but absolutely a sweet fragrance. Absolutely a gourmand fragrance, but has just enough of those little touches and things in the background to stop it from being cloying and stop it from being honestly maybe juvenile by some standards. I definitely think it's still a more fun, playful fragrance to a degree, but there is enough of a warm, perfumey element that, again, pulls it back from being truly juvenile or truly too sweet and makes it something that is actually quite comforting and something that I have said many times is why it is my top bedtime fragrance. I love it for bedtime. That's why I've used it up as much as I have. I've actually finished an entire 50 mil, and got a little dent going here in my 100 mil that I replaced quickly because it's just that good. It's just what I want for bedtime most nights, and thus it gets worn a lot, and yeah, I just love it. So that's my top fragrance for the year. So I thought about mentioning, a bad fragrance if I had any, but I already talked about the Lattafa, and that was really the only bad fragrance I had. Again, there are some that didn't quite live up to my expectations, didn't quite, hit the heights that I wanted them to, but nothing really bad. So then I thought, okay, well, is there anything else to kind of go over for this? And the only thing is I can say, like, kind of a low point of my collection overall was body sprays. I used a couple, I got a couple in, and I used a couple, but for the most part, it's just a whole collection or area of my collection that I completely forgot time and again and just didn't even think about. In fact, they literally are like in a little corner where I keep all my fragrances. So I think I need to maybe rearrange, maybe do something to jazz it up so that I am more inclined to use them, whether on their own or layered, even though I don't love layering so much. But I just want to use them because I do have some great ones and they don't need to just sit there and, waste in the corner of my fragrances. So yeah, so that's kind of a low point, but otherwise pretty good. No real negatives this year as far as my collection goes. So now I just wanted to go ahead and touch on a few other topics as far as this year has gone, this 2025. And then, yeah, that'll be my kind of recap there. So I just wanted to note that one, aside from bottles, aside from acquisitions or things leaving my collection, I've also just made some cool observations this year. I've found that I love tobacco. I previously thought I hated it, and I think that I just maybe tried the wrong fragrances, as sometimes happens. But this year, I found a few different fragrances that feature tobacco, prominently, and I really love them, and I really enjoy the tobacco note in them. So that's been very cool to find out about myself. I also have found that there have been notes that I've never tried before and really enjoy. Plasticky notes, metallic notes, paint notes, things that are very durian. I've never tried durian again, even in real life, but in perfume at least what I've tried thus far, I really like it. So that's also been super cool. I've also found some things that I'm not so into. Salty notes, it really depends. Rhubarb, it really depends. Vegetalness in general, it really depends. But still cool to find out. That's part of the journey, right? That's part of this exploration. That's really a lot of the fun of this. So I've enjoyed that, those elements, and I've also enjoyed the community aspect and the creation aspect of fragrance. End of 2024 was really needing an outlet. I was needing somewhere to funnel all of my discoveries and my observations and my ramblings about fragrance, and I was able to do that on Instagram. Firstly, at the end of 2024 is when I started my Instagram, so it's really a 2025 thing, but I did technically start at the end of 2024, but there was that to begin. And then in January, actually just in a few days, I think the 16th or so, is when I started this channel. So it's coming up on a year in just a few days, and it's been a great space for me. It's been a great space for me to express my love of fragrance. I've learned new things. I've learned how to use video editing software that I've never used, maybe to not, great success, let's be real, but I've learned how to do it. I've learned how to use some audio software that I had never used before, and I'm just, have another avenue to express and share my journey with fragrance that I'm really enjoying. And then, I just love the community of it all. I love talking to you guys. I love, whether it's in my comments, the comments of someone else's videos, or things on Instagram, wherever. I love talking and sharing what we like and don't like, and suggestions and comparisons. I don't just find fragrances to try, but I find new ways to look at my collection based on everybody else. Whether you're creating videos or we're just talking somewhere online, I find so many new ways and so many interesting ways to approach even things that have been in my collection for years. And that's really, really cool. That's been another big highlight of 2025, is all of you guys and all of the ways that we've been able to share in our, different fragrance journeys along the way. So anyway, with all that said, I hope you had a good 2025 in fragrance and in general. I hope it ended happily, and I hope that this year has begun happily as well, and it will continue to be so for you all. And I just thank you all, as always, for joining me here. Of course, the YouTube things, if you do like my channel, that's one thing I want to focus on in 2026, is growing it just a little bit more. I don't want to be like a channel person in the way of like influency thing. That's never been my bag. That will never be my bag. But maybe just get a few more friends to join us and things like that. That'd be nice. So if you want to subscribe or comment or whatever, please feel free. And as always, I just thank you for joining me on my fragrance journey. I hope you're all having, again, a good rest of your day and a very happy new year. Stay safe, and I will talk to you all in the next one. Bye.